Definitely is compelling to see that, all these cryptos are doing well, over 2.5 trillion in value. And Doge is in the top five, mostly with its framing as a meme crypto with the Doge dad and Elon Musk. XRP is shaking off a little bit of their difficulties with the law by hiring one of the previous US Treasury secretaries. And because everything's essentially linked through Bitcoin pairs, when Bitcoin goes up, everything else a lot of times will be pulled up unless something is going awry. But at the present time, for the last 24 hours, there's been a nice little pump, especially with EOS and TRX. And, you'll even see them with projects that are relatively established and with a considerable short interest, like Cake. Like a lot of people will buy Cake, stake Cake, and then try to short on FTX or some of the futures exchanges. And there are a lot of great sites that allow you to see what the actual costs are, or the funding rates on an hour by hour basis, or the spreads between the calendars versus the futures. FTT is one interesting to look at because Sam Bankman Fried is having the biggest conference in blockchain, essentially. It was Bitcoin 2021, which was slated to be in San Francisco, but he took over, from what I understand, principal sponsorship and now moved it over to Miami, where the mayor of Miami is already favorable towards crypto. And that'll be a good event. I'm trying to make it out there. So if you're in the area, go ahead and put a comment in the comments below, and perhaps I'll meet up. Yeah, you can see that YFI had a really nice run, and Celsius, that is also one that has considerable downward pressure. I think on FTX you can't even send it in; you can only take the perpetual on it. Because with the futures, a lot of times people will get the underlying and then they'll short it for the yield if they're fairly certain that there's going to be long-term demand for more long positions over short. That's a good way that a lot of people will eke out some returns from a lot of their positions without actually having to sell. And then, with the speculative ones, the movements are bigger because there's bigger swaths that are getting moved. I know someone that's really bearish on 1 inch because the TVL, or the total locked in value, TLV I should say, is pretty low relative to the actual value. But I think what's lost on a lot of people is that they do some interesting innovations that relates to gas fees. They have that gas token. They're, I think, doing some additional adoption with some level 2 solutions. So there's a lot of interesting things there. I think I would put crypto companies into two categories. One, that focus on the real architecture, which is like what Ethereum does. They don't really have a profitability per se. And in terms of what they, like in the way that Binance does, they're making $1 billion a year. And then I think the token takes about a third of that, just like FTX is. So they have market cap, which I think last time I checked was about 40 PDE. And a lot of these companies with these fees are just making a mint. So there's some real value there. I think that, kind of like Bitcoin, Ethereum is the architecture of the Ethereum virtual machine that the level 2 solutions are still using, but that it's a different type of value proposition where you don't have to be tied into a price to earnings. It's like, what's the value? The value is that it'll eventually be ubiquitous and people will need to buy it in order to operate and use the blockchain. And now, the gas fees over the weekend, I think, kissed about 500 gwei, which is absolutely insanity. So essentially, it renders using the mainnet Ethereum blockchain as essentially impossible. I mean, you can do it, but if you want to deploy a contract, it's thousands of dollars. If you want to even send some, then it's whatever, $40, $50. So until Vitalik Buterin really kicks off his promise to do more roll-ups and do more innovations with ETH 2.0, which has kind of been kicked down the road a little bit, then I think it's, a real problem. I can see Matic is doing well. I think the real problem with Matic is that when you go on, as talked about by a Crypto Slow, really great crypto channel, you can go on to the Aave Matic, and a lot of people are staking their Ethereum, but then all the rewards are given in Matic. So it's like that's a lot of downward pressure on Matic. But I do like the nimbleness of Aave and how they're able to adapt to the new blockchains. With these meme stocks, they all rely upon the greater fool theory and the visibility and the search traffic bringing additional people into the fold and wanting that um, profitability themselves. So, you look at some of these valuations, 10 billion for Filecoin, and they were, this is like a derivative coin from way back in the day against, so, Made Coin or Made Safe, I believe it is, or Burst, the ones that are using the proof of capacity as their um, consensus mechanism. So, I think the best ones, yeah, aren't tethered to a price to earnings, but when I would invest in something like for the long term, I look for that as a portion of it. And if not, then it is a speculative vehicle. So I'll do more videos on trading itself, but just wanted to give a little heads up now that my challenge is monetized. Feel free to like and subscribe. And it's just kind of a good synopsis on for the top 10. I like the Litecoin guys. I see them at crypto conventions all the time. BCH, I think, is Roger Ver, and I know they're doing well. Um, and I know he debates people a lot, but I don't have really any comment on that. DeFi, yeah, these are just isolating the DeFi. NFTs, yeah, these are kicking off in a big way. I've done a little bit of work with NFTs DAO, and I'll probably do a video on that pretty soon. That's kicking off some partnerships with some rather large influencers. And I think that the most visible ones, like a lot of people lament that they like NFTs, but as an artist, they can't sell them because they don't have the visibility. And if you look at the visibility of Beeples and these people that take the front page of the headline on New York Times, Wall Street Journal, they don't leave really room for mention of any other artists, although there is that residual effect of snowballing a little bit of attention to the space, which bleeds over to people that do interesting digital art. But for the most part, you have to have some sort of prominence, and your skill set as an artist may be on display, but you have to really get that visibility through some media partners. So there are a lot of great apps out there. I use CoinGecko because it's pretty straightforward, and I even like that it gives ratings on exchanges, because you might see that there's what seems to be an arbitrage opportunity between exchanges, but really it's a scam exchange, and they'll advertise like, oh look, Bitcoin is 5% cheaper than the rest of the market, and you put in whatever in there, and they're going to KYC to death or exit scam or something. But as far as the ones that I'm familiar with, yeah, I've heard good things about Gate, of course, Binance, um, US and otherwise. Gemini or the Winklevoss twins, Coinbase. You've probably all seen about Brian Armstrong exiting, I think it was like 2 or 3% of his position on the New York Stock Exchange, Nasdaq. That was it. LA token I've been using for CXIO. Oh wow, they're doing more stuff. That's a blast from the past. And then yeah, nice has just because people are renting miners. Bitcoin.com, I believe, is BCH, which is Roger Ver. Yeah, what's kind of cool about these is if you go way down, some of them have very little um, actual volume. And what I like about this is you have some like Chinese exchanges that'll pump up. And so I think CoinGecko and a lot of them will show what appears to be puffed up and then actual volume. What was this like? Yeah, it's zeroed out, I think, because occasionally they'll try to differentiate between actual volume and yeah, fake volume. HitBTC has been good for years. Of course, Uniswap. A lot of people are checking out Uniswap V3. and I've heard kind of mixed reviews on that. Pancake Swap, uh, Pancake, and a lot of these are just literally forks of Uniswap version 2. I think the only one's kind of innovating is with Bancor. I listened to Twitter Spaces with the CEO today, and they're doing some good stuff. They finally addressed the real problem that you're seeing on Uniswap in a lot of places with the impairment loss. And if one side of the pair is 5x out of alignment with other side, you can lose like 25%, 30%. So Bancor, with its single crypto staking platform, really does away with that, but you still have to contend with the gas fees. So a lot of interesting projects. I think that it'll shake out to just kind of a few winners, but really you have to ask yourself, am I going in for the tech or am I going in for the leadership team? Because a lot of times the tech itself is derivative or forked, and a lot of times the visibility of the leadership is actually not transparent. So you have to decide which one's for you, and if it's neither, then it's a true speculative play. Feel free to um, mention any kind of topics you'd like me to do videos on. Happy to oblige. Thanks for following my channel.